Hey my friends, Yarrow signing in, and today I want to share with you a very special herb to my heart. This is elderberry, and this one is amazing. It's one of those ones that has a lot of history.
Most fruit bushes have a fatal weakness, and if you live somewhere hot and dry, you've already seen it up close. You've watched a blueberry turn crispy by July. You've seen raspberries drop their fruit early and just give up. You've put time and money and hope into a plant, and the summer heat just took it. Slowly, stubbornly, brutally. A slow surrender that ends with brown leaves and bare branches and that sick feeling that maybe you're just not supposed to grow your own food where you live. I want to talk to that feeling directly because it's wrong. The problem was never you. The problem was the plant selection. You were given a list written for Oregon and Michigan, and then you tried to grow that list in Central Texas, in the Austin Hill Country, in New Mexico, in Arizona, in the dry Mediterranean scrublands where rain is a rumor from October to March. The 15 plants in this video were not given those weaknesses. They evolved or were cultivated over thousands of years, specifically for heat and drought. They don't just survive dry conditions, they thrive in them, they produce in them. Some of them have never been watered by anything but rainfall, and they are still standing. If you are in Central Texas, the Austin area, the American Southwest, or any dry Mediterranean climate, and you have ever wondered whether growing your own food is even possible where you live, this video is your answer. And the answer is yes. Kindly give this video a like, and let's get into it. Number 15, Apache blackberry, the improved native that earns its place. Let's be honest with each other from the start. Blackberries are not the most drought-tough plant on this list. Most commercial blackberry varieties were bred in the Pacific Northwest, where it rains sideways for 6 months, and they will tell you about it every summer when you forget to water them. So why is Apache on this list at all? Because Apache is different. This variety was developed by the University of Arkansas with heat and humidity tolerance baked into its DNA, and it performs meaningfully better in Central Texas conditions than any standard blackberry you'll find at a big box store. The root system is aggressive and deep for a blackberry, and the canes are thornless, which matters more than you think when you're harvesting in July heat with a bucket in one hand. Apache handles alkaline soil better than most in its family, and it can take temperatures well above 100 degrees Fahrenheit without dropping fruit, provided you gave it a strong first year with consistent deep watering. Cold-wise, it's hardy down to about 0 degrees Fahrenheit, which covers the vast majority of Texas, New Mexico, and the Southwest. In ideal conditions, a mature Apache plant can give you 8 to 10 pounds of fruit in a single season. The berries are large, genuinely large, not marketing large, and when they're fully ripe, and I mean completely black with just the slightest give under your thumb, they are intensely sweet with a deep jam-like flavor and almost no tartness. They taste like the idea of blackberry, not the refrigerated version from the grocery store. Bonus tip: most people pick Apache blackberries a day too early. The real sugar development happens in the last 48 hours on the cane. Wait until the berry practically falls into your hand. If you have to tug, wait one more day. That patience alone doubles the eating quality. Number 14, mayhaw, the Gulf Coast heirloom that nobody outside Louisiana knows about. If you've ever driven through East Texas in April and smelled something sweet and fruity coming from a damp bottomland, there's a chance you walked right past a mayhaw without knowing it. And that's a shame, because mayhaw is one of the most productive and underappreciated native fruits in the American South. Now, I want to be transparent with you. Mayhaw is the most water-loving plant on this list. It evolved in the bottomlands and stream margins of the Gulf Coast, and it does want reliable moisture. So why is it here? Because in the right microclimate, a low spot in your yard, near a rainwater collection point, along a natural drainage line, it is one of the most effortlessly productive edible plants you can grow in the South. If you have any natural moisture accumulation in your landscape, plant a mayhaw there. It will pay you back for decades. Mayhaw blooms early, sometimes as early as February, with clusters of white blossoms that look like the countryside just exhaled. The fruit follows in April and May, small, round, bright red, about the size of a large cranberry, and it comes in such quantity that a single mature tree can produce 50 pounds in a season. The flavor is remarkable, tart, aromatic, somewhere between a crabapple and a cranberry with a floral undertone that is completely its own. Mayhaw jelly is considered a regional treasure in Louisiana and East Texas, and if you've had it, you understand why people drive hours to buy a jar. Bonus tip, mayhaw fruit drops when ripe. Don't pick it, harvest it. Lay a tarp or old sheet under the tree in late April, give a branch a gentle shake, and gather what falls. The fruit that drops is perfectly ripe. The fruit that clings needs one more day. Number 13, muscadine grape, the vine that belongs to the South. If you've ever been told grapes won't grow in the South, someone was talking about European wine grapes, and they were right. European vinifera grapes struggle with southern heat, humidity, and Pierce's disease. Muscadines are not those grapes. Muscadines are native to the American Southeast. They were growing wild here before Europeans arrived, and they treat all of those conditions as normal. Muscadines grow on thick, strong vines with deep root systems that can reach water well below the surface. Once established, they are genuinely drought-adapted for the South, tolerating summer dry spells that would destroy any European grape. They shrug at heat, resist most fungal diseases, and produce year after year without intensive spraying programs. They thrive in the acidic to mildly alkaline soils of East and Central Texas, and they are cold-hardy down to about 0 degrees F, meaning they are rock solid throughout most of the southern growing range. A single established vine can live for decades. There are productive muscadine vines over 50 years old still fruiting in the rural South. The grapes are thick-skinned, large, and bronze to deep purple depending on variety. Carlos for bronze, Noble for dark purple. The flavor is powerful and sweet with a musky, almost exotic undertone that grape purists love and new tasters find surprising. Pop one in your mouth and it fills the whole palate. Bonus tip, muscadines need a pollinator. Most varieties are either self-fertile or male. Plant one self-fertile variety like Carlos or Triumph and you're fine alone, but add a second variety nearby and you will notice a real jump in fruit set and cluster size. Number 12, elderberry, the medicine cabinet that grows itself. American elderberry, Sambucus canadensis, is one of the most quietly useful plants you can put in a drought-prone garden, and almost nobody is planting it intentionally. It grows wild in fence rows and along stream edges across the entire eastern half of North America, which tells you something important. This is a plant that finds its own water. The root system is expansive and fibrous, and the plant spreads by suckering, which means once it's established, it is actively colonizing your landscape and creating its own food-producing thicket. In central Texas, it performs best with some afternoon shade and a spot that collects a little extra rainfall runoff, but established plants handle dry summers with real toughness. Hardy from Zone 3 all the way to Zone 9, elderberry handles Texas winters with no drama at all. It can take well over 100 degrees F in summer if its roots are deep. A mature shrub can reach 12 feet tall and wide, and it produces enormous flat-topped clusters of berries, hundreds of small dark purple fruits per cluster, each one loaded with anthocyanins and the compounds that make elderberry syrup one of the most bought herbal supplements in the country. The raw berries are tart and astringent, not a fresh-eating fruit, but cooked or fermented, they develop a deep, winey, complex flavor with a floral brightness from the natural compounds. Elderberry syrup tastes like dark fruit with honey and something medicinal in the best possible way. Bonus tip, don't harvest the full cluster when half is ripe. Elderberries ripen unevenly within a cluster. Wait until at least 90% of the berries on a cluster are dark purple-black, then cut the whole head and strip the berries at home. Harvesting too early dramatically reduces both flavor and medicinal potency. Number 11, pineapple guava, the overlooked evergreen from South America. Most people who have a pineapple guava in their yard planted it as a hedge, not a fruit source. That is one of the great gardening missed opportunities I encounter regularly because feijoa, its proper name, produces a fruit so unusual and so good that people who taste it for the first time immediately ask where they can buy one. Native to the highlands of southern Brazil and Uruguay, feijoa evolved in a climate with warm summers, cool winters, and long dry seasons. That origin story translates directly into Central Texas. It handles alkaline limestone soils with minimal complaint, tolerates heat above 100 degrees F, and is cold hardy down to approximately 12 to 15 degrees F, which makes it reliable throughout most of Texas, the Gulf Coast, and the warmer Southwest. It is evergreen with silvery gray-silver-green foliage and produces flowers in late spring that are themselves edible. The petals taste like sweet floral candy, and you can eat them straight off the shrub. But the fruit is the real prize. It ripens in fall, egg-shaped, gray-green on the outside with a cream-colored interior that has the texture of a pear, but a flavor that defies simple description. It tastes like guava crossed with pineapple and mint, with a light perfumed sweetness that somehow also tastes a little tropical and a little cool at the same time. One mature shrub can produce 50 to 100 fruits per season, and they drop when perfectly ripe, so you harvest by walking under the plant every morning during season. Bonus tip: feijoa needs a pollinator for best production. If you only have room for one, choose Coolidge. It's the most reliably self-fertile. 2 plants of any variety, though, will give you dramatically more fruit than one.
Number 10, quince, the 4,000-year-old drought survivor. Quince has been cultivated in dry climates since before the Roman Empire. That's not a metaphor for toughness, it's literal proof of it. The fruit that was sacred to Aphrodite, fermented by the Persians, and grown in the gardens of ancient Greece is the same fruit you can plant in your Central Texas yard today, and it will outlive you. Native to the rocky, dry hillsides of the Caucasus region, the borderlands between Turkey, Georgia, and Iran, quince evolved in exactly the kind of limestone, alkaline, low water conditions that defeat most fruit plants. The root system is deep and tenacious. The tree itself, technically a large shrub that can grow to 15 feet, is almost indifferent to summer drought once established. It is cold hardy to about -10 degrees F and handles Texas summers with total composure. It is one of the few fruits that actually prefers dry heat to humid conditions. High humidity is where quince runs into trouble with fire blight. In the dry Southwest and hill country, that problem largely disappears. The fruit looks like a lumpy golden apple and smells extraordinary, honeyed, floral, like roses and vanilla and citrus all at once. The raw flesh is hard and astringent, but that changes completely when it's cooked. Cooked quince turns a remarkable deep amber pink, and the flavor becomes rich, jammy, spiced, intensely aromatic, one of the most sophisticated fruit flavors in the temperate world. Membrillo, the quince paste served with manchego, is made from this fruit. Bonus tip: 1 quince tree is plenty. A single mature tree in a good Central Texas location will produce more fruit than most families can use. Plant 1 near a wall that reflects heat. It accelerates ripening and intensifies the flavor in the skin. Number 9, American persimmon, the generational tree. Before we go further, I want to take a quick second. If this video is giving you real, usable information, the kind you can actually take into your garden this season, hit that like button. It takes 1 second and it genuinely helps this channel reach more gardeners. And drop your location in the comments. I want to know where in the dry climate world garden sage is growing, whether you're in Austin, Albuquerque, the Central Valley, or somewhere completely different. Tell me where you're gardening. Now let's keep going. American persimmon, Diospyros virginiana, is a generational tree. I mean that literally. There are American persimmon trees in the Southeast that have been producing fruit for 100 years. Your grandchildren will eat from a tree you plant this season. That is not something you can say about many plants. It is native to a range that spans from Connecticut to Florida to Kansas, which means it is adapted to both cold winters and brutal summer heat. The taproot on an American persimmon is extraordinary. It can reach 12 feet deep, accessing water that other trees cannot touch. This is why it survives droughts that kill everything around it. It is not just tolerant of drought, it is engineered for it at the root level. It handles limestone and alkaline soils without any amendments. It is cold hardy to -25 degrees F. It thrives through Texas summers above 110 degrees F. A mature tree can live and produce for over 100 years. The fruit is small, marble to golf ball, and it is not ready until after the first frost, when the skin turns translucent orange gold and the flesh softens to a custardy, honey-sweet brown sugar paste with hints of apricot and vanilla. Wait for that moment and you will understand why indigenous peoples and colonists alike depended on this tree through hard winters. Bonus tip: never eat an American persimmon before frost. The tannins before ripening are aggressively astringent. It will feel like your mouth is turning inside out. After a hard frost, or after picking and storing until soft, those tannins convert completely and the fruit becomes extraordinary.
patience is everything with this tree. Number 8, Chickasaw plum. You've walked past this wild food your whole life. Here's a moment I want you to sit with. If you have driven any rural road in Texas, Oklahoma, or anywhere across the southern Great Plains, you have almost certainly seen a Chickasaw plum thicket growing on a roadside bank or along a fence line. Dense, thorny, 5 to 10 feet tall, covered in white flowers in March, and loaded with small red fruit in June. And you probably drove right past it. That fruit is edible, delicious, drought-proof, and completely free. Chickasaw plum is a native Texas and Southern Plains species that has been growing here without any irrigation, any fertilizer, any human help at all before the European settlement of North America. The Cherokee, Choctaw, and other indigenous peoples ate it extensively, both fresh and dried. It is perfectly adapted to alkaline limestone soils, thrives in rocky hillsides, and survives temperature extremes from -10 degrees F to well over 110 degrees F. A cultivated Chickasaw plum in your garden, given even minimal establishment care, will produce abundantly from year 2 onward. It spreads by root suckers, creating a productive thicket over time that requires almost zero maintenance once established. It provides food for your family and wildlife alike. The fruit is small, round, bright red to yellow-orange, with a thin skin and juicy, tangy, sweet flesh that tastes like a plum concentrated to its essential self, vivid and bright with just enough tartness to be interesting. Eaten warm off the bush in June, it is one of the great small pleasures of a Texas garden. Bonus tip: let a Chickasaw plum naturalize into a loose thicket rather than trying to grow it as a single tree. The thicket form is what it wants to be, and a managed thicket of 3 to 5 stems can produce 5 to 10 pounds of fruit annually with essentially zero input once established. Number 7, loquat, the evergreen that feeds you in February. The loquat is one of the most underutilized edible plants in southern gardens, and part of the reason is that people don't understand what it is or when it fruits. This is not a summer fruit. Loquat blooms in fall, fruits in late winter and early spring, February and March in central Texas, and by the time every other fruit tree in the garden is still just leafing out, your loquat is already dropping ripe golden fruit. Native to the cooler mountainous regions of central China, loquat is remarkably heat and drought tolerant once established. Its root system develops deep and wide, and mature trees handle Texas dry seasons without supplemental water. It is cold hardy down to approximately 12 to 15 degrees F for the tree itself, though the flowers and fruit can be damaged below 28 degrees F. So some years in north central Texas, you'll lose the crop to a late freeze. In San Antonio and southward, that risk drops significantly. It handles alkaline soils well, grows to 15 feet as a rounded evergreen tree, and produces abundantly after its 3rd year. A mature tree can give you 30 to 50 pounds of fruit in a good year. The fruit is small, oval, orange-yellow, with smooth skin and juicy flesh that tastes like a cross between a peach, a mango, and a mild apricot. Sweet, delicate, tropical, but not overwhelming. The texture is soft and yielding, almost melting. It is a fruit that tastes like spring itself. Bonus tip: loquat fruit comes in clusters. When fruit is about half-sized, thin each cluster to 3 to 4 fruits by removing the smaller ones. This seems counterintuitive, but it concentrates the plant's energy, and the remaining fruits grow significantly larger and sweeter. Thinned loquat fruit is in a completely different category from unthinned. Number 6, pomegranate, the ancient tree with a modern price tag. Walk into any American grocery store and pick up a pomegranate. You're looking at $4 to $5 for a single fruit. Now consider this: a mature pomegranate bush in central Texas can produce 100 to 200 fruits per season. Do that math. Pomegranate is one of the oldest cultivated fruits in the world, with documentation of its cultivation going back 5,000 years across the Middle East, the Mediterranean, and Central Asia. All of them hot, dry, alkaline soil regions. Pomegranate didn't just survive those climates, it was domesticated there. Drought is its native condition, not an obstacle it overcomes. In central Texas, pomegranate is about as low maintenance as a fruit plant gets once established. It handles pH levels well into the 8s, which is standard hill country limestone soil territory. It tolerates temperatures from about 10 degrees Fahrenheit to well over 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Certain varieties, Salovatsky, Russian 26, Wonderful, are particularly well proven in Texas conditions. It can live for decades with almost no intervention. The fruit is a sensory event. The exterior is tough, leathery, and deep crimson red. Inside, hundreds of jewel-like areoles, each one a translucent ruby, burst with a juice that is intensely sweet tart, almost wine-like, with a dark, complex depth that makes pomegranate one of the most sophisticated flavor profiles in the fruit world. The color alone makes it worth growing. Bonus tip, pomegranate fruit cracks if it gets too much water after a dry spell during ripening. The areoles swell faster than the skin. If you're getting late summer rain after a dry August, mulch heavily around the base to slow soil moisture fluctuation and reduce cracking. Harvested pomegranates store for months in a cool location, so don't worry about using them all at once. Number 5, prickly pear, the desert's own grocery store. Prickly pear is not a metaphor for drought tolerance, it is the definition of it. The flat, paddle-shaped pads of a prickly pear are not leaves, they are modified stems, and they are filled with water-storing mucilage that the plant draws from during dry periods. Every pad is a living water reservoir. You can go 2 years without rain, and a mature prickly pear will still be standing there, perfectly calm, probably blooming. Opuntia, in its many native forms, is the default landscape plant of the central Texas Hill Country, the Chihuahuan Desert, and the American Southwest. It is the landscape. It grows in limestone bedrock where there is barely enough soil to anchor the root. It handles pH levels that would kill most plants. It lasts at 115 degree Fahrenheit heat. It survives to negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit in cold hardy varieties, like Opuntia humifusa, and it produces food. Abundantly. The pads themselves, called nopales, are harvested young, cleaned of spines, and cooked into a vegetable that is mildly tart and lightly mucilaginous, with a flavor between green beans and green pepper. It's a staple in Mexican and Tex-Mex cooking. The fruit, the tuna, is egg-shaped, deep magenta red or golden yellow, with a flesh that tastes like watermelon crossed with raspberry, cool and sweet and just slightly floral. The juice is one of the most beautiful, deep ruby colors in the natural world. Bonus tip, harvest the fruit pads with long tongs and burn or scrape the fine glochids, the tiny hair-like spines, over an open flame before handling. Glochids are more irritating than the large spines and are almost invisible. The burn and scrub method takes 10 seconds and prevents an hour of misery. Number 4, fig, 5,000 years of feeding people in dry places. The fig is perhaps the single most proven drought-tolerant fruit plant in the history of human agriculture. Ficus carica is native to the dry Mediterranean basin and the Middle East, regions where summer rainfall is essentially zero and where limestone, rocky, well-drained soil is the norm, not the exception. It was cultivated around the shores of the Mediterranean for 5,000 years before anyone in the Western Hemisphere had ever tasted one. The farmers who grew it in Syria and Turkey and Greece didn't irrigate it, they just planted it and came back. In central Texas, fig performs like it belongs, because in terms of climate analogy, it does. It handles alkaline limestone soil without amendments, thrives through dry summers, and in the San Antonio to Austin corridor, it overwinters reliably in most years. North of the I-20 corridor, give it a south-facing wall for protection from hard freezes. The wood dies back at around 10 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit, but the roots survive and regenerate aggressively. A mature fig bush, and it is a bush naturally multi-stemmed, can produce hundreds of figs in a season. Texas everbearing, brown turkey, and alma are all proven Central Texas performers. The fruit is soft, yielding, the skin thin as paper. Split one open and the interior is strawberry red or amber and tastes like warm honey with a texture like jam. Sweet, complex, with a subtle nuttiness from the tiny seeds. A sun-warmed fig eaten directly from the branch in August is one of the most sensual eating experiences in the plant world. Bonus tip, figs produce on new wood. In cold winters where the top growth dies back, the plant pushes the energy into new canes in spring and will still fruit that same year, just later. Don't cut dead wood until mid-spring when you can see what's alive. Cutting too early can remove viable wood you didn't recognize yet.
Number 3, agarita, the native treasure that grows in solid rock. Agarita, Berberis trifoliolata. If you live in Central Texas or the Hill Country and you've hiked it all, you've put your hand straight into one of these without knowing it, because the leaves are rigid and holly-sharp and unforgettable in the worst possible way. And most people who've had that experience do not think, I should grow that for food.
but you should. Agarita is not just drought tolerant. Agarita doesn't know what drought is. It grows in cracks and limestone outcrops with no visible soil. It produces in the middle of summer heat that would destroy any conventional berry. It has been a food source for indigenous peoples of the Texas Hill Country, the Comanche, the Tonkawa, and for border communities for thousands of years. This is a plant that has never needed a gardener. It is an evergreen shrub, 3 to 8 feet tall, with gray-green holly-like leaves. It blooms in late winter with tiny, fragrant yellow flowers, some of the earliest pollen in the hill country, and the berries ripen in late spring to early summer. Small, round, bright cherry red. They cluster along the inner branches, which is why you have to reach into the shrub to harvest them, and why those leaves are a problem. The flavor is intensely tart, bright, almost wine-like, somewhere between a red currant and a tart cherry, with a vivid acidic punch that is genuinely remarkable from something growing in solid rock. The jelly made from agarita berries is a hill country tradition that deserves to be more widely known. Bonus tip: harvest agarita berries by laying a tarp or sheet under the shrub and beating the branches firmly with a long stick. The ripe berries fall, the unripe stay on. This is how it's always been done. It gets you a bucket of berries in minutes and saves you from the leaves entirely. Number 2, Texas persimmon, the native legend that owns the landscape. Texas persimmon, Diospyros texana, does not perform like other fruit plants. It performs like geography. It is the hill country. It is the Trans-Pecos. It is the limestone escarpment. It belongs here in a way that planted fruit trees simply cannot replicate. And what it offers to a food-producing landscape is something no imported variety can match. This is a small tree or large shrub, rarely over 15 feet, with gorgeous, smooth, gray-white bark that peels in layers and glows silver in morning light. It is entirely native to Texas limestone country and northern Mexico, where it has been part of the food landscape for indigenous peoples for thousands of years. The Comanche, the Lipan Apache, and border communities all depended on this fruit. The drought story here isn't about deep roots or water storage, it's about evolutionary belonging. Texas persimmon's entire physiology was shaped by hill country dry seasons. It is not adapted to drought, it was born from it. It handles rocky, shallow limestone soil, extreme heat, prolonged dry seasons, and cold down to 0 degrees F without any intervention whatsoever. Plant it and leave it alone. The berries ripen in August through September, small, round, jet black, ink dark, with a sweetness so concentrated it almost tastes fermented. The flavor is deeply sweet and dark, richer and more intense than American persimmon, with a complexity that is entirely its own. The juice stains everything it touches a permanent blue-black, which indigenous peoples used as a dye, and which you will discover on your fingers the first time you harvest. A mature Texas persimmon produces abundantly for decades with no water, no fertilizer, no care. It will outlive you. It will outlive the garden you built around it. Bonus tip: collect the fruit when it's completely black and slightly soft. It will still be astringent at this stage. Let it sit at room temperature for 1 to 2 days after harvest, and it converts fully to sweetness. Don't rush it. The waiting is what makes the fruit. Number 1, jujube, the drought king that has been feeding humans for 4,000 years. Garden friends, this is the one. If you take one plant away from this entire video, make it this one. Jujube, Ziziphus jujuba, has been cultivated in the dry interior of China, Central Asia, and the Middle East for over 4,000 years. Not 4,000 years in irrigated garden plots, 4,000 years in the arid steppes, the lowest plateaus, the dry river valleys where annual rainfall is 12 to 15 inches and summer temperatures regularly exceed 105 degrees. Jujube didn't survive that history, it dominated it. The root system of a jujube is among the most aggressive and deep-reaching of any fruit plant. It sources water from depths that other trees cannot reach, and it is so well adapted to dry conditions that overwatering is more common a mistake than underwatering. Alkaline limestone soil is not a challenge for jujube, it's home. Central Texas conditions are so well matched to jujube's native range that it almost seems designed for the hill country. And the numbers: cold hardy to -20 degrees F, heat tolerant above 115 degrees F. Productive for over 100 years, there are jujube trees in China that are 400 years old and still fruiting. A single mature tree can produce 30 to 100 pounds of fruit per season every year for the rest of your life and your children's lives. The fruit starts green and hard, crunchy, lightly sweet, apple-like in texture, then slowly transforms as it matures, first to mottled red-green, then to deep mahogany red, finally to a wrinkled, dried, date-like state that is intensely sweet, honey-dense, and almost chewy. You get two completely different fruits from the same tree at different points in the season. Fresh jujube tastes like a crisp apple crossed with a date and a hint of vanilla. Dried jujube is like a date crossed with brown sugar, dense, complex, deeply sweet. Lee and Lang are the two most proven varieties in Texas, Central Texas. Both are self-fertile, meaning one tree is all you need. Both will produce within 2 to 3 years of planting. Bonus tip: jujube produces fruit on current season wood, which means you can prune it fairly hard in late winter to shape it and redirect growth, and it will still produce that same year. More important, jujube spreads by root suckers aggressively. If you want to contain it, mow the suckers regularly. If you want to expand your grove, let them grow. Those suckers are free trees, and they'll produce their own fruit within a few years. Before I wrap up, I want to give you the master principle that sits underneath every single plant on this list, because I see it fail over and over again, and it breaks my heart every time. Drought tolerant does not mean establishment tolerant. It means that once these plants have built the root systems they need, they can survive and thrive on minimal water. But once they've built those root systems is doing a lot of work in that sentence. If you plant any of these 15 plants and give them no help in year 1, a significant portion of them will die, not because they're not drought tolerant, but because you never let them become what they are. Here is the year-by-year arc. Year 1, weekly deep watering, not daily, deep. You want water moving down 18 to 24 inches into the soil, not sitting at the surface. A slow trickle for an hour is better than a flood for 5 minutes. You are not keeping the plant alive with this water. You are directing root growth downward. Every time water is only available at depth, the root follows it down. That is the investment you are making. Year 2, cut back to every 2 weeks. The root system is beginning to reach. You are weaning the plant towards self-sufficiency. Year 3, you stop. You let it rain or not rain, and you watch what you build. A plant with a 2-year-old root system in Central Texas limestone soil has roots that are reaching into water tables you will never see. That's the plant that produces through the drought of the decade without losing a single fruit. The first year of watering is not maintenance, it is construction. You are building the underground infrastructure that feeds your family for 30 years. Garden friends, we have just walked through 15 plants that span the full range of what a dry climate food garden can be. Native hill country legends that grow in solid rock, ancient fruit trees with 4,000-year track records in dry lands, overlooked wild foods that have been growing on Texas roadsides since before the first European settlers arrived, and proven cultivated varieties from the hottest food-growing regions on Earth. If someone in your life has ever been told they can't grow their own food where they live, share this video with them, not as a suggestion, as a rebuttal. Hit the like button, subscribe to Seniors Gardening if you haven't, and drop in the comments which of these 15 you are planting first. I read every single one. I'll see you in the next one.